Hello everyone, welcome back to Weaponized CAD. I'm your host Danny. Today we're talking about layers. Layers are how you separate objects that you're drawing, text, line work, dimensions. It gives you the ability to name different components, and then if at any point you need to turn them on, turn them off, freeze them, thaw them, lock them so you can't select them, unlock so you can, or even set them to never plot. That's what layers are for. Layers also control the thickness that the line work and the text and the dimensions and anything in your model space window plots at. So we haven't gotten into that part yet. I did page setups last night. Today we're going to discuss layers in a basic way, just how to separate and segregate your different objects within AutoCAD. So we're back in our bat symbol. I know you guys are probably getting tired of seeing this thing. Up here in the Home tab, under the Layers panel, the Layer Properties button is going to open your Layer Properties Manager. Now, you can dock this just like you can with the Properties window, just like you can with the External References window. I like to have mine floating. You can actually lock the locations and how you have your CAD window set up. So the ribbon you're not going to be able to move around, but these toolbars that we added can be locked in position so you don't accidentally grab them and drag them out into the model space. If you notice when I try to click on the dots, it's going to give me a red X and essentially say, no, you cannot move that toolbar. Same thing with the dockable windows. If I try to grab this Layer Properties Manager, it's going to give me a red X. The way that you lock it is you right click in this area, lock location. You can do all locked, unlocked. You can only lock your floating windows, which is what these are. You can lock your dock toolbars and panels, which if you dock them left, right, same thing. I'm going to unlock everything so I can slide this down just a little bit. I'm also going to right click and uncheck allow docking because I just want it to kind of snap into position there. I also want it to auto hide. So if I mouse over it, it's going to open. If I mouse away from it, it's going to close. So I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to right click in the area next to the toolbars, lock location, all locked. Now I can no longer move, accidentally pull things, and make a mess of my setup here. So the Layer Properties Manager, I'm actually going to click the Auto Hide button so it stays open. You're automatically going to start with the 0 layer and the def points layer. You cannot delete either one of these layers, ever, under no circumstances. These are standard and immovable objects. Def points is automatically set to no plot. I'm going to have to expand these out so you can see what they say. Okay, so def points. Under the column that says plot, it's actually grayed out. It's very hard to see, but this is grayed out. This is not grayed out. So layer 0 is what my text and my bat symbol are currently on because we never got into layers. So we were just drawing on layer 0 for the purpose of training those functions, those commands. Up here in the top, we have the new property filter, which I'm not going to discuss. We have the new group filter, which I'm not going to discuss. The layer states manager, also not going to discuss. What we want is the 3 sheets of paper with the little yellow star next to it. We're going to click that. And what it's going to do is it's going to add another layer underneath layer 0 because layer 0 is our current layer. So anything that we draw, anything that we type, is going to automatically be on layer 0 because of this checkbox right here. If I pull this out, it says status, green check. That's your current layer. It also shows it up here in the panel, in the ribbon panel, under the layers. This is your current layer, layer 0. So let's name this text. It's going to automatically be on. It's going to be thawed, not frozen. It's going to be unlocked, and it's going to plot. Now the colors are important here. If you click in the color box, you're going to see this same select color window that we discussed episodes and episodes back. Let's say our text we're going to make it red. Color 1. This is typical for design work because most plot style tables, which we discussed in the previous episode, plot or print the color red very, very thin. And you're going to learn that as you go. And we might even jump into that in another episode, looking at the actual plot style table, because it's based on the color. And those colors all have thicknesses associated with them. So when we click in the color box, all of these colors all have thicknesses associated. And you can change those thicknesses if you need something to be thicker or thinner, etc. So for right now, we created the text layer by clicking the new layer button. We want it on, we want it thawed, we want it unlocked, we want it to plot, we want the color to be red. Let me auto hide this. If I select this text and I go to the toolbar that I had everybody add to their CAD at the beginning, and we drop this down and we click text, the text is now going to turn red. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to select it again. If we go to the properties window, our multi-line text, color red, layer text. So let's go back into the layers, which is LA on the keyboard. Now, if you have it docked on the side, all it's going to do is say, hey, I'm over here. It's going to pop it out for you. I'm going to click the new layer button again and watch what happens. Because text is the current layer that we set up here, it's going to match all of the settings of that layer when we click new layer. So let's just call this one line work. Let's make this line work blue. And let's change the line type from continuous. When you click the line type button, it's not going to show you anything other than continuous if you're starting a brand new drawing from the AutoCAD.dwt template file like we did way back. So what we want to do, let's say we want to add a hidden line type. In the select line type menu, we're going to click load, and it's going to automatically throw us into the AutoCAD.lin file, which is the line type file. So inside here, if you single left click and then you arrow key down, it's going to give you some options. You have some line types to play with out of the box. Let's go with hidden. So we're going to double click hidden to load it into our line types. Then we're going to select hidden and we're going to click OK. So now our line work layer that we just created, which is blue, it's on, it's thawed, it's unlocked, it's plotting. The line type is set to hidden. We're going to select our bat symbol. We're going to pull down the layers. And we're going to select line work. And you'll notice the line type is now set to hidden. So a hidden line is a dash and a space. Space, dash, space, dash. Now, way back in the day when we used actual pen plotters, where it was a machine that would literally pick up a pen into the carriage, slide over, and would draw like you would with a pen or a pencil. It was the coolest thing, and I'm from the days of old. The way that it would determine how to draw the line type, it would say pen up, so it's not touching the paper, space, pen down, draw the line, pen up, space, pen down. That's how line types work. So if we were to go into the line type file right now, line types are designed in that way, where you tell it the distance of the space, then you tell it the distance of the line, because it's all based on that old system. Pen down, pen up. If the pen is down, it's moving this distance. The pen comes up, it's moving this distance, which gives you gaps and actual line work. So within the layers, now we have the ability to freeze and thaw and turn things on and turn things off. Up in the layers panel, you have the off button. Turns off a layer of a selected object. If I click this, down in the command line, it's going to say lay off. select an object on the layer to be turned off, or settings undo. Right now, our current layer is text. So let's turn off the text layer and watch what happens. Down in the bottom, it's going to say layer text is current. Do you want to turn it off? This is more of a safety feature, because if I were to turn this layer off and then draw line work, polylines, arcs, ellipses, text, dimensions, you wouldn't see them. And people actually get hung up by this because they don't realize that their current layer is off. They'll say, I can't, nothing I'm drawing is showing up. Where the heck is all my text? Where are my dimensions? It's as simple as this warning telling you you're turning off the layer that all of your new objects are going to be drawn on. So let's say yes. I'm going to click yes down at the bottom, and it just kicks us back into the lay off command. If you don't need to turn anything else off, you can just right click to end the command. Now watch. If I do PL for polyline and I draw a polyline, it's not there. It's not even selectable because the text layer is off. If I click the toolbar layer pull down and turn it back on and click into the drawing window, there's the line that I just drew. So it allows you to draw or type or put dimensions in on a layer that's off. Keep that in mind, because if the layer is off and you don't realize it and you're trying to draw, it's not going to show up until you turn that layer back on. Layer freeze works the same as lay off. It freezes the objects. It says layer line work has been frozen. Select an object on the layer to be frozen. If you type layer P, that's layer previous. So let's say we do lay off. Lay off on the command line is the same thing as clicking the lay off button up in the ribbon. We're going to turn this one off. This is our current. We're going to say Y enter, and we're also going to turn off the bat symbol. And I'm going to right click to end that command. If I type layer P, it's going to undo the previous layer command. Now, if I type lay off and I turn off the current layer, yes, and I right click to end the command, and then I right click again to start the lay off command and click the bat symbol and right click to end the command. If I do layer P, because I handled the lay off command in two different commands, it's going to back up one lay off command, which was the bat symbol, and then it's going to back up again if I hit enter. So layer P is the same thing as undo, but undo will undo any line work, any dimensions, any text. Layer P is just undo for layers. Remember that. If you turned a bunch of things off, you froze a bunch of things, you locked a bunch of things, hitting the undo command is going to back up the actual work you were doing. It's going to reverse all of that work, where layer P will just undo the layer exclusive commands. Let's go back into the layers. In the layers, in this case, we don't want to change the line weight because the line weight is controlled by the color. But we can turn off the ability to plot. Also, I'm going to have to unlock this again. Bear with me. Lock location all unlocked because I need to see a little bit more of this. You can set your transparency of a layer. So let's say I wanted the text to be a little bit transparent. Transparency value of 0 to 90. Let's say transparency of 30. Click OK. New VP freeze means that if I jump into a layout and I tell one of these layers that I want this specific layer to be frozen in any new viewport I create. Let's do that right now. Let's go into the layers and let's say line work. I want this to be frozen in any new viewport I create. So I click that little button and these icons are teeny tiny, very hard to see. You can see a little blue snowflake when you freeze it. And it looks the same as if you were to freeze the layer entirely. It goes from a sun to a snowflake. So we're telling the line work layer that in any condition where there's a new viewport created, I want it to be frozen. Let's click out into our drawing window. We're in our 01 bat symbol sheet. I'm going to create a new viewport. So because we set that layer to never show up in a new viewport, the bat symbol is not showing up in here. If we double click into this viewport and we go to our layers, you're going to notice that we have our on off, we have our freeze thaw. The viewport freeze thaw is the next one in line. If I click that, click out, it's going to show back up. So layers are going to come into play more heavily when we get into actually drawing things that need to have different thicknesses and need to have different line types. They need to have transparency. Layers are good for when you go to print because the layers determine the thickness of the line work without having to actually edit the thickness of the line work inside the properties window. So that's it for layers. Like I said, it was going to be quick. It's not going to be super intuitive. It's not going to help you with all situations of layers. I just wanted to cover how to create a new one, how to freeze thaw, how to on off. So any new viewports you create, specific layers are frozen in them. And that's it for this episode. This was AutoCAD Layers. I'm your host, Danny. Thanks for coming to Weaponized CAD.